Broadcasts of the City of Neenah Common Council meetings are produced by University Studios of the University of Wisconsin-Fox Valley. Neenah residents can get information about City Council meetings, City Committee meetings, meeting agendas, and other documents via the City website, www.neenahgov.org. Neenah residents can express their opinions about city issues or about these broadcasts by contacting the mayor's office, contacting their city alderman, or by completing the electronic feedback form on the city website, www.neenahgov.org. All public portions of the meetings are recorded in entirety and are not edited for playback.
I would like to call the meeting of the Neenah Common Council to order for March 6th. And there you go. Wednesday, April 6, 2022, and welcome everyone that's here tonight. First item of business will be the roll call. Clerk will call the roll. Sign in as the clerk calls your name, please.
Alderperson Bates.
Here.
Wyatt.
Here.
Hillstrom.
Here.
Lundrum.
Here.
Orchard.
Here.
Lang. Here. Skirms.
Here.
Erickson. Here. Stevenson.
Here.
Here.
All members are present. There's a quorum present. Tonight, the pledge will be led by Mayor-elect Jane Lang, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Before we get started here, I just did want to take one moment here to congratulate the winners of candidates the local election. So we had a major election here in the city of Neenah with the mayor's race. We had, we'll talk about it probably later, but congratulations to Mayor-elect Jane Lang. And also thank you to candidate Brian Borchert, Alderman Borchert, who ran a very good race, and I'm really proud of both. Alderman Boyette for the 1st District. Alderman-elect Dan Steiner's here out in the audience, replacing 16-year Alderman Marge Bates. So,
16-year-old.
kind of sad person. And we have welcome back Alderman-elect Lee Hillstrom. I don't know if you're Alderman-elect or if you're Alderman. I don't know. I think kind of tricky, but
Keep trying to retire.
you made this one a little difficult, Lee. But we had some Winnebago County supervisors elected for the area. Brian Stafford, Betsy Ellenberger, Don Nussbaum, and Kay Horan will be representing this area. Our longtime Neenah Menasha Municipal Court Judge Jim Guns was reelected, so congratulations to him. And exciting times. All right, item number 2 will be every month now we make sure we at least make you aware and make the citizens of the city aware of, longtime retirees and who's left employment here for retirement. So tonight I'd like to just mention that and recognize and thank them for their service. Two people. One, Deb Calabrese in the finance department. She was the office manager for 8 years. Started just before I did. So we wish Deb the very best in her retirement. Deb was instrumental in the budget, working with the mayor to get that document out, and along with Michael. So Deb Calabrese is hired to spend more time with family in that. And second retiree we'd like to say thank you to and thank him for his service to the citizens is police officer Bill Moore. Bill had 31 years of service with the city of Neenah as a police officer, and we thank Bill for his service to this community. No mayor's appointments tonight. Item number 4, approval of the council proceedings of March 16th, 2022 regular session. Is there a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
There's a motion and a second
do
to
your bu-
approve the council proceedings
Thank
of
you.
March 16th, 2022. Any discussion, correction? Alderman Stevenson.
Yeah, it's not the topic, so the city attorney will probably yell at me, but just a reminder to the council, we are using, since we're all back in attendance, we are using our tools here, so motions can be made there and seconded there as well.
Okay, thank you. Good reminder. Any comments or questions on the council proceeding? If not, is there any objection, unanimous consent to approve the council proceedings? Hearing objection, unanimous consent. That's so ordered. Next item is item number 5, which is approval of the council proceedings. Is the public forum. Speakers are invited to come and talk to the council at any time on any topic that they would like. And all we do is we ask you to keep it under 5 minutes, which I'm going to prove is a long time tonight. And state your name and your address for the record, just so we have it. And so is there anyone here tonight who would like to speak to the Common Council? Bernice, go ahead. Come on up.
Bernice
Take the
Meyer.
microphone and kind of tilt it. There you go. Thank you.
Okay. Bernice Meyer, Town of Neenah, 116 Armstrong Street. The residents of Armstrong Street are wondering what the payments are going to be for the maintenance on the road, for what you will be doing for blacktopping and also for future maintenance. We haven't heard anything on this. Are we being charged? What is happening?
We usually don't go back and forth, wait till after the public's done speaking, but I think I'll just have Jerry answer the question.
There are no assessments for the road work that will be done this year. Other maintenance on the road is covered through our operating costs, so the taxpayers are covering the costs on those. There is no special assessment for maintenance work.
Okay, we will never have any special assessments.
I won't say never
Okay.
until a final street is constructed. That would likely be assessed.
Will we be able to get a letter of explanation on this sent to the different residents? They're all wondering,
Okay.
what's
I
happening.
can put something together with the city attorney.
Okay, that would be good. I also have another issue I would like to talk about. This regards Armstrong Street and Shooting Star, how it was handled. I'd like to ask some questions on how the second access trail from Nature Trail subdivision was handled, or excuse me, Eagle Crest subdivision. This has been going on for over 20 years now. In the very beginning, a conceptual map was sent to the city of Neenah. They had put a roadway from Remington Street directly through to Breezewood Lane. They were recommended by Chris Hayes to have this go directly through to Armstrong Street, changing Lot 5 on Armstrong Street to a lot and then adjoining Shooting Star to Armstrong. There had been correspondence between Chris Hayes and Richard Johnson, the VP and senior planner. He said Chris explained that Shooting Star was the best explanation for going through on Eagle Crest rather than going directly on to Breezewood Lane. Chris stated that the DNR rejected the proposal to fill in the wetlands along Remington to allow this. I contacted the DNR, and they said no one in the city of Neenah had contacted them about any work for 2003 or 2004. To me, this means that a wetland delineation could have been used for this rather than going through to Armstrong Street. Because no wetland delineation was done, the city got 7 acres of wetland. By 2008, the city purchased Lot 5 on Armstrong Street, and in 2015, they set aside $50,000 to upgrade Armstrong. The entire time all of this was going on, the town, the residents of Armstrong Street, and were contesting action being done by the city. These have been going on from 2004 to the present. In conclusion, wouldn't it have been better to use the first conceptual map that you received from the developer? An even better option would have been using the conceptual map, but using Kingswood as a second access. It would have done less to the wetlands. The city would have been a better neighbor to the residents of Armstrong Street by following this conceptual map. Also, the city would have had their second outlet to Breezewood Lane 20 years ago, rather than going through all of these problems.
I just asked, Bernice, you were reading from a document, portions of that from a DNR or town?
I have that.
So you were reading some from a documents
Yes, the dates,
that you could
the
cite. It
information
appeared you were
is.
reading from minutes or something.
This
So-
I wrote up, but I do have the information from the DNR.
Right, but those are all your, okay, thank you. So, Chris, would you like to give us the Reader's Digest?
Well, to answer the question, it's no. No, I don't. There's several reasons, and first of all, I don't recall exactly the delineation. Typically, when a preliminary plat goes through, they identify wetlands on the preliminary plat. So the area to the north, that 7 acres that you referenced, most was identified as wetland. So that's part of the reason. There's several reasons why I felt it was best to use Armstrong Lane and Shooting Star. The one is the wetland issue. Two, because of the wetlands, assuming you could even extend the roadway north from Shooting Star to Breezewood, you'd have several hundred feet of roadway with nothing to be built alongside of it. So it's a pretty inefficient use of a street. Third, that particular location, put it probably within 200, if you had extended it north to Breezewood, the distance from that intersection to the intersection with Armstrong was probably less than 200 feet, roughly. That's too close to have intersections. So, and I guess fourthly, Armstrong was a public street.
If Kingswood would have been used, it would have been more than 400 feet. And in the conceptual
Yep.
map, there were lots all along.
But they wouldn't have been able to go in because of the wetlands.
You can get wetland delineations and cardinal plot. They got delineations, and all of those lots were put in
Yep.
on wetlands.
Yep, understood. There's a
Right,
significant change in legislation in the last 3 years as it relates to wetlands.
I said I gave a little bit of lenience here, but I'm not going to have a back and forth in the public forum. So you've asked your questions, and Jerry, I don't know if you have anything to add or not.
If I could just finish, Mayor, so the layout that was built is just a much more efficient use of resources. It's as simple as that. Why would we not utilize a public right-of-way?
Is there an ulterior motive to wanting to annex Armstrong Street? To be able to connect Lone Star to Armstrong Street in the future?
Armstrong to Lone Oak?
Lone Oak.
Absolutely. Lone Oak that street has been mapped for at least 20 years. And the plan is that Lone Oak will extend to Armstrong.
It is not a right-of-way
It
as
is,
of yet?
it is a mapped reservation.
When was that done, the right-of-way?
I can't say off the top of my head, but it's been in place for quite some time.
I went-
Probably, if I had to venture a guess, I would say 1992.
I was on the Winnebago County GIS map yesterday, and it wasn't on there as a right-of-way
Then their map is wrong.
from 1992
Yeah, and it's
on?
not a right-of-way, it's a reservation. That's correct.
Reservation.
Correct. You have to look at the official street map.
If you have any other,
A reservation is different from a right-of-way. How would you explain that?
The reservation is simply that, a reservation for a future street extension. The reservation does not own the real estate. The reservation does, Winnebago County in there, well, statute says the property owner can put a structure, can develop in a right-of-way. However, if the right-of-way is ever acquired by a municipality or jurisdiction, there would be no reimbursement for the improvements. Winnebago County takes one step further and they will require setbacks as if that reservation were a public right-of-way. And of course, a right-of-way is an owned reservation, I mean, that a jurisdiction would own.
So we would have to be notified if you tried
Absolutely.
putting a right-of-way through.
Absolutely. The only way it would happen is if it was either dedicated, given, or if the city acquired, and the only way we would acquire would be either from a willing seller or through eminent domain,
So you'd condemn the land if we didn't want to sell.
if the council so chose.
okay, you're welcome to contact Chris or Jerry anytime, it's more specific. Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else like to address the council? Come on up, Scott, welcome.
I speak a little loud, and I apologize for that. First, I want to congratulate Mayor-elect Jane Lang and Brian Borchert, excuse me, Alderman Borchert. You both did a great job. Scott Berman, 985 Bridgewood Drive, and I want to apologize for my speaking. I do deal with aphasia due to a traumatic brain injury, similar to what Bruce Willis is dealing with right now. So if I get a little stuttery or a little lost for words, I apologize. But what started, what brought me to be here today was actually Statute 305 and bringing it into a local ordinance. And there's a little confusion here. And it shows to me that there's some kind of disconnect with the city government and the people. And it shouldn't be, because you guys, I mean, every one of you work your butts off, to be honest with you. And I appreciate everything that every one of you all do. We've got a great police department, great police force. Assistant Chief Bernice is amazing, and I see you sitting right over there. Chief Olson is amazing. But I've discussed this infraction, this disconnect with, Mayor Dean. I've discussed it with Alderman Boyette, Alderman Borchert, I mean, many of you. And it's not the city government that's disconnected. I think it's the people that are disconnected, and there's got to be a way to find how to communicate with the city. Because when I came across this post on social media a couple weeks ago about 305, saying that 305 would cause issues with modifications in this, I did a little research on that, and I pulled up 305 from Wisconsin statutes, and then I pulled up the local ordinances. And the only thing that came to my concern, would this cause more stress on Neenah Police Department, and also cause an additional amount of funding to pursue this? And the other thing that came up to my mind, is this going to affect the Utterly Euro event in Neenah? But what I did is I passed this information on social media, like everybody else. It's the party line. And just like Grandma had, I remember listening to Grandma's party line. It was great. It was fun. But, people can't call the government officials, the city employees, threatening them. I mean, there's death threats going on in school boards. There's, threats going on to local officials, state officials, federal officials, and this has to stop. And, how can we find an answer to resolve this? and I don't have an answer. Maybe Alderman Borchert's idea with his application on a phone would be an answer. I don't know if that's it, but something's got to be it. But honestly, I showed up at the committee to listen, to be educated, and I have just three questions for, if you could join me, is it possible you could join me, Assistant Chief?
He'll come up. He'll answer after you're done.
Okay, I just have three questions. Is this going to cause any more stress on the local police department? Is this going to cost any more? And is this going to affect the Utterly Euro event that goes on, I believe, next month? Yeah, I believe it's next month. Because that causes some revenue coming to the city. We don't want to lose revenue to the city. I mean, those are the only three questions I really have on that have to be answered. I did have a little conversation with Chief Olson last week in committee, after the committee, but I wasn't able to corner Assistant Chief Bernice. So
You have the three questions down, Chief? You have the three questions? Okay. So our normal procedure is to listen to all the folks and then have a mayor, council, or department head answer those questions, okay?
all right. Thank you, Mayor Dean.
Thank you very much. Anyone else like to address the council on any topic? Forrest, your last chance.
Yeah, he can speak every 2 weeks, if he wants.
All right. If I see no one else, I'll close the public forum, and we will go to item number 6, which is mayor council consideration of public forum issues. Okay, Chief Bernice, would you like to answer those publicly so that those questions from Scott?
Reference the three questions that Scott mentioned. The first one about undue stress would be no. To cost more, again, no. Again, this would be just the normal course of a patrol officer's duty. A standard patrol, a traffic stop, if they would do a warning or a citation or just a verbal counseling. So nothing costly on that. And then as far as the event, again, our focus is public participation and then kind of making the city of Neenah stand out. So our job is, one, public safety. Of course, if people are driving a reckless and undue care for other pedestrians and vehicles, then, things will come out. But normally, we'll focus on the event to make sure people are happy and safe. So again, we won't be targeting these specially made vehicles coming to this event next month.
Anyone else have a question of Chief Bernice before I turn him loose? Alderman Lundgren, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have a question, but I've got a possible solution to Mr. Berman's concern on the disconnect between certain concerned citizens and the police department. In my opinion, the police department does not brag enough about their accomplishments, about their welcomeness that you would get if you went into their office. So fairly regularly, I go on ride-alongs. And I have learned more in one ride-along about police budgeting, police attitude, how they conduct themselves, than I ever could sitting up here for 10 years, just in one 3-hour chunk ride-along. I would highly recommend a ride-along for somebody who has maybe doubts or suspicions about our police department. I probably go 2 or 3 times a year. I would recommend going 2 or 3 times a year. Very eye-opening. And the other thing is, not once has the chief been anything other than welcoming when I say, hey, I've got somebody that wants to sit with you just one-on-one and have a private conversation. And he's like, of course, when? Say the time. And sometimes I go with him, and sometimes I just refer people to him. And if you want to sit down and talk with the chief one-on-one, I guarantee he will absolutely make time for you. And as long as you want, he will not rush you through a meeting with him. So I think both of those two things, if somebody really has that disconnect and really has that distrust, if that person tries those two options, I think that can solve your disconnect. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Alderman Boyette.
Thank you. My question is for Chief Bernice. I understand very little about the state statutes and how Neenah puts together the ordinances that we have you enforce. My question for you is this. This is a state statute that's been on the books for years. Just didn't happen within the last 6 months. This has been there for a while. That's 305. Why is it that we have to adopt this for you to be able to enforce it? Shouldn't it already be enforceable?
So currently, officers of the Neenah Police Department are able to enforce Wisconsin state statutes 340 to 348. This is considered a administrative code, which is kind of separate within the realm of the traffic codes. So I can't speak why my predecessors did not incorporate it. I mentioned that we are one of the last agencies within the Fox Valley. The only other one is the Outagamie Sheriff's Office that has not adopted this. Again, the focus is this on safety. It's not on harassment or anything like that. I just want to make sure the people in our community are safe. So again, I can't answer why it was never incorporated in the past.
And can I just ask one more question on that? So you, even if we didn't adopt it, you could still enforce that, correct?
No,
You could
we
not.
cannot enforce Trans 305.
Interesting.
Because
Okay.
it's a code, an administrative code.
Okay, thank you.
Couple more, and then we're going to move on. Alderman Bates, and then Hills.
Just to clarify that, we did ask in committee if you had a state trooper that happened to be cruising the streets and they saw this, they would be able to enforce it as well as a state. So county sheriff versus, yeah, so they both would be able to do it. So it's not like it's not illegal, it is illegal. So that was that. The other thing is, I was going to clarify, so for Utterly Euro, since that's an event, is that why if you have vehicles that are not really street suitable, that's something that they can come in and do that? It'd be similar to like the Memorial Day Parade or the 4th of July Parade, and that's why these would not be applicable to those?
I've never been to the event, but my understanding is you may have more sports-related vehicles, lower
And the
body
tinted
types and
glass
stuff like that,
things?
yes.
So they might not be suitable for normal days, but for an event, we're good with that.
Yes, these owners put a lot of money and time in the welfare of their vehicles and take good care of them, and they just want to showcase them during that event.
Thank you.
Alderman Hillstrom, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just want to state that the date of the event is coming up on June 18th. That's the actual date.
Okay, thank you. Not, thank you very much. We'll be discussing this more, comes up later in the agenda. The item number 7 is a consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Alderman Stevenson moves, seconded by Alderman Borchert. Any discussion or comment? Questions? If not, is there any objection to unanimous consent to approve the consent agenda? Hearing no objection, that's so ordered. Thank you. Item number 8 is report of standing committees, the regular Public Services and Safety Committee meeting of March 29th, 2029. Chairman Bates.
Thank you, Mayor. Committee recommends council approve the memorandum of understanding between the City of Neenah and Bird Rides Incorporated, which establishes an electric scooter pilot program to expire on December 31st, 2022, and to approve ordinance number 2022-08, which will allow for modifications of Article 4 and Section 11.2 in regards to the operation and regulation of electric scooters, and I would so move. Oops, there.
There's a motion by Alderman Bates.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Stevenson. Discussion on this topic? Questions? had an opportunity to see them in action tonight.
My back's a little sore, just saying.
Yeah, I would just say that, and I did, maybe I'll ask Chris. The places that I've been to where they've had them out of the country, and I utilized some of them. The only kind of pause I have is that I would hope that we negotiate or whatever as many corrals or designated areas as possible, because otherwise, they just seem to be anywhere and everywhere. So I would hope that while they can do that, that we have as many designated drop-off zones, spots as possible.
Yes, so when they're what we would call a destination location where they place them out for distribution, certainly, and I don't disagree with you, Mayor, once a rider utilizes the scooters, for the most part, they're free to park them wherever they want. We have some exclusions that we've talked about, bridges, the trestle bridges, our street bridges, a few other locations where they would not be able to end the ride. They can stop, but they couldn't stop the meter, so to speak. But other than that, we really don't have a lot of control. And I expect that this will go down with some issues, but as we note, it is a pilot, and we will be working hard to try and minimize those issues and improve them when they arise through the course of the summer.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Hillstrom and then Alderman Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank Samantha for doing a great job getting us information on this presentation at Public Service and Safety. And I asked her to contact a few other cities just to see how happy they were with it. And I guess she's heading up here, so fill us in on that information.
I actually talked to 4 different municipalities. I talked to Mason City, Iowa, Russellville, Arkansas, Beloit, and Sheboygan. And as a fun fact, Sheboygan had the most rides in the state of Wisconsin. Fascinating, right? So they had 55,000 miles ridden, and Appleton had 32. So Sheboygan. They all are continuing again this year. They all had similar stories. When Bird first came, there was kind of this, people weren't super educated on what they needed to do and things like that. But with Bird was very quick to work with them. When they were seeing issues, they would contact Bird, get speed limits adjusted or get geofencing in areas where, things weren't going right. Sheboygan actually gave an example of they had the same thing we're going to have in the downtown, which is you can't ride on the sidewalks. They said that first week, everybody's riding on the sidewalks, business owners are calling, people are zipping by. They got a hold of Bird, and very quickly they dropped the speed limit, and Bird pushed more education to their app. Didn't hear from another business owner the rest of the time. So it seems what we're hearing is Bird is really, really responsive, and I think with that education piece, municipalities are seeing success, so that's what I heard. So.
Thank you. And then I also had asked what the cost was going to be, because we weren't quite sure what that was, and that was $1 for startup and then 39 cents a minute after that.
That's correct, which is the same as Appleton.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a question. If you are a location where you would be dropping off the Bird, are you required to have a designated area for drop-off? Because you wouldn't want them just dropped off on the sidewalk throughout. And if that business or building has a designated area, are they required to have it a marked off area, a sign, drop off your birds here? And is that their expense, or is that the expense of Bird to do that?
Yep, so it's my understanding that a lot of municipalities do choose to have signage. The municipality would put that up. Bird doesn't provide any infrastructure or signage. we wouldn't require anything from a business to put any infrastructure in or a sign or anything like that. That would be the city. People can drop off scooters. There are certain rules. You're not supposed to put it on private property, things like that. They need to be standing up so that people can still, traverse the sidewalk. But yes, we would definitely work with Bird to put in those preferred parkings and nesting zones, especially if we're seeing, areas where there might be a lot of them and we know, hey, maybe if we put a preferred parking right over here, it would decrease what we're seeing. So that's our plan, to work with them closely to try to limit that.
So if there was a preferred parking area at the library or a business, it would be a designated area where you would know to drop off your bird as opposed to just have them sporadically placed around the building?
Yeah, it would show it in the app of where that preferred parking is, and then you would get a credit on your next ride so that's how they try to encourage people to use those, is that credit that you would get then if you put it in that spot shown on the app.
So does the business or building that has the designated area, do they get any type of reimbursement from Bird for allowing this to happen on their property?
I don't believe so. We haven't talked about that. We also have not spoken with anyone that we would potentially have an idea to put on their property. I know we have identified, for example, Bridgewood, as someone that we would speak with about putting it somewhere on their property. But I have not heard that Bird reimburses them at all or gives them anything for that.
Alderman Boyette?
Thank you. So my question is just basically safety. I know we touched on it earlier this evening on if they'll be primarily used for sidewalks or street or whatnot. And you had said not downtown. And so I'm curious what, if anything, you have worked out yet with details on that, because if they're not going to ride them on the sidewalk downtown, then that puts them in the street, and we have angled parking, and I'm just concerned about that. And then also with trail riding, then, like for instance, the Lakeshore Trail, will they be on the road portion of that, or will they be on the trail, sidewalk-ish, like trail part of that? I'm just kind of curious, trying to get my bearings of where these will actually be used.
Sure. So when speaking of the downtown, yes, they would be required to be on the road, not the sidewalk. We did discuss the angled parking and the visuals that you would see. It would be similar to a bicycle, which in the downtown now, the bicycles are supposed to be on the road. So it would be similar to that. There's a bell, there's lights, there are things that make it more easy to see. And then on the trail, they would be allowed to ride on the trail portion. We are limiting the speed limit on the trail, however, to 12 miles per hour. And as we were testing outside as well, it is easy to go down to 4 to 5 miles an hour before you're falling over. So you can easily go down to that to get around pedestrians. There's a bell. So similar to a bicycle, it is quiet, so you would also need to alert someone that you're coming behind.
And just one quick last question on that. So you said you would be able to control the speed. So is the speed on these controlled geographically of the location? And
yes.
From a different, so like not just the driver controls that speed, but then the other force, if you will, can control that?
It can, yes. So in most locations, you would be able to go up to the full speed, or how you would control it, but we can work with Bird to geo-fence certain areas that you could not even go. It wouldn't be an enforcement, it would be an actual, you would just not be allowed to do that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Ones that we use, Kathy, for scooter would actually decrease speed 4 miles an hour, about full throttle, whatever the button.
Samantha, can you clarify which trails would have the speed restriction? Because I don't believe it applies to all.
Yes, that's correct. So it would just be the Loop the Lake is where we would have the.
Lakeshore.
No, not Lakeshore, just Loop the Lake so far.
Loop the Lake.
Yes, but we left our MOU open so that if we're seeing issues, we can talk to Bird and we can get things changed.
Okay.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? As long as we have it up here, go ahead. Alderman Lundrum.
Thank you, Mayor. Normally, my go-to is Samantha, but I'm just going to jump over to the city attorney. My question is on the contract that we have, the MOU that we have with Bird. If we find Neenah is just not set up right for these scooters, they're in the way, people are leaving them in the road, whatever, are we able to, in that MOU, to cut out early?
Yes.
Thank you.
A trial period until December 2020,
31st.
correct?
Mhm.
Great. Anyone else? All right. Alderman Skirms?
Just a quick thing. I came to committee and raised some issues there, and I think this has potential to be really cool, fun, exciting, good, but there's also going to be some bumps along the way. Now, one of my, I guess, concerns is that Bird hasn't identified who the manager is or whoever and how that's going to be staffed. And I believe the number one concern will be somebody left this thing in front of my doorstep, come pick it up. So I think part of our challenge will be channeling that, directing that, so setting the standard of, okay, this is what's reasonable to be expected of when it will be picked up, and here's who you call. So that's not all on you to do the cleanup work for Bird. So I think there's going to be an education piece in there of letting people know, here's what's expected of riders, and if that's not happening, here's who you call.
Absolutely, and I know that, you know, if this were to pass tonight, Bird would start working on finding that person. I will say I did speak with the fleet manager in Appleton today, and he was very professional. Almost, I was a little bit shocked at how professional he was. So I would hope that that's a company policy that they really want, you know, some upstanding people to be doing their work. So that was a good sign to me. So
Well, and when Mr. Ganowski talked about, we're gonna find some entrepreneur to do this, I hope it's more than a person taking care of Neenah, Menasha, Fox Crossing to collect.
Well, if I could, I had a conversation with the gentleman that had the scooters here tonight, and I had to ask him twice. He's not the fleet manager, it was his son. Because the guy that was here looked like he was 20, so
Yeah.
But I was surprised at how frequently they picked them up in Appleton. He said on a lot of occasions it's 4 times a day, that they get used that much, that they have to pick them up fairly frequently. It is a full-time job. I inquired, without trying to get into too much detail, how lucrative that is for the individual, and his comment was he made more money than I did last year. So I think they do very well, but we were talking about the 3 cities, and he said, yeah, it would be really difficult because of that frequency. The logistics of that individual to get to Neenah is pretty difficult. So the odds are it's probably an independent for at least Neenah, Menasha, and potentially both communities having their own entity. And I believe, Samantha, correct me if I'm wrong, but we would have a direct line of communications both to the fleet manager and to Bird. Tonight was a good example with getting the scooters running. They ultimately ended up putting a geofence around the building to be able to get the things to work.
Cool.
And they did that in a matter of a few minutes. So his comment again, and I think Samantha has said that, is Bird has been very responsive in Appleton. So I think the training will be at the public level will be probably more challenging than anything.
I agree, yeah.
And one more thing to point out, Sheboygan, as I said, they had this, you know, everybody loves the scooters there. So they actually hired several fleet managers because they were realizing that it's just not, there wasn't enough, and they were starting to get complaints about them not being moved and things like that. So several were hired for their community.
Well, I understand it's in their interest and ours. It's just going to be, there's going to be some bumps. So expect some
Absolutely.
phone calls. Thank you.
All right. There is a motion and a second to approve the memorandum of understanding. All in favor will vote aye. Any opposed, vote no, as the approving ordinance number 2022-08, as the clerk calls the roll. They're voting on the, I'm sorry. It's been a little while for that.
Trying to. It says they voted. it says, gives me the option of changing my vote. It says voting enabled. Yeah. Sorry. I vote aye.
There we
works.
go. Vote's locked in.
All right.
Just have soft finger.
That motion passes 9-0.
Committee recommends council approve entering into a memorandum of understanding with Galloway Company on the Harrison Street Pond. I've been notified by Director Kaiser that Galloway has not approved it. They've actually sent him some changes, and he needs to look them over. So my motion would be to refer it back to Public Services and Safety. Oops, motion.
Electronically or?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to defer
Refer.
and move this back to the committee level. All in favor of that signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That's so ordered.
Item 3, committee recommends council approve the city attorney to amend Chapter 16 of the City of Neenah ordinances by adding Wisconsin Administrative Code, Chapter Trans 305, and I would so move. And I don't have that on my. We need to
Oh,
vote.
because we have to vote for the last one?
Yeah.
There we go.
We didn't vote, yeah.
Alderman Bates moves,
that
seconded
was-
by Alderman Borchert.
No, that was the last.
Oh,
Okay.
there we go. There we go. Alderman Bates moves, seconded by Alderman Borchert. Approve amending Chapter 16 of the City of Neenah ordinance. Questions or comments? Chief, I'll just ask you one question that I didn't ask before. And it seems to be the crux of a lot of people's concern or angst in the community. Under this ordinance, using any parts or mufflers that are not stock, would that make them illegal?
I guess it all depends on the volume and stuff like that. Most of them are already covered under Wisconsin State Statute 347. So there's really no special amendments when it comes to mufflers. I know there was one concern about motorcyclists. Subchapter 3 of Trans 305, like I said, there's 11 sections within that. 9 of them are already enforceable by Wisconsin State Statute 347. The 2 that are not are beyond, I guess, the scope of a standard patrol officer. And they basically deal with suspension and fenders about basically the angle of the parts. So officers are not going to be out there with protractors and determining the angle. So basically the mufflers for motorcyclists are already covered in other chapters that are enforceable.
Motorcyclists are already covered.
Chapter 347.
So, and that the elephant in the room is motorcycle muffler. In my opinion. So, if someone modified or bought an aftermarket muffler, would that in itself make it illegal, or does it have to still meet the thresholds of decibels and that type of thing?
I would guess aftermarkets are a lot louder, and again, if it's drawing attention and drawing public complaints to the police department, it is our job to look into it and investigate it. And then there's different methods. We could use a decimal meter to determine the volume of the sound, or if it's just basically due disregard to the community, there's other measures that officers can enforce it with. But again, we're not just going out to target certain vehicles.
And I'm not chilling thing, but that seems to be the the biggest concern, that if they simply put on a aftermarket exhaust system, that they're going to be, and I don't know, I still don't understand how a police officer knows if it's stock or if it's aftermarket. A little bit, how would I know that, or how would they know? So that's got to be difficult right there.
So you'll see that different officers have different skill sets, and some officers do have motorcycles and are experienced motorcycle riders, so they could determine that. I personally would not be able to tell the difference. I don't know if Chief has something else to say?
You have a motorcycle?
Not that's illegal. It's legal. We actually had a state trooper come in and train all of our officers on how to identify a muffler that's been changed from stock to not stock. And so we have books in the squad cars on how to refresh yourselves, because it's not difficult, but it's a lot of information. So obviously state troopers, that's all they do is traffic. So they're have a lot more training on it. So this state trooper came in, trained our officers. They have a book on how to identify it. So if they have a question, they can resource that book. And as everyone remembers, Ed Hudak wanted us to become a noise-free city. So we assigned Sergeant Jason Foster about 2 years ago to that effort. And part of it was motorcycles. And that's why we brought in the state trooper to train our officers on how to identify motorcycles. In that time, it was a lot around Coolidge Elementary School and then downtown. I'm going to guess we're not going to have as many downtown now, but we still have a few around the city. And I was going to pull up the stats on how many people we cited after that training, but I just didn't have time to pull it up. So that,
And I'm just, so that's, it just to me, that narrows down Hartford's coming from, so I wanted to ask that question about stock aftermarket. And then I'll just say this, in the last 2.5 years, maybe 3 summers, the number of complaints that my office is receiving, or your office, and what I've seen is that just the escalation of noise from motorcycles that, you know, may or may not have stock muffler on, I don't know, but you can sure hear them take off at 8 o'clock in the morning, Saturday morning. So I just wanted to ask those questions because I promised that I would, and that was the whole Hartford they had. So, and it's not that we're going to, you know, it's another tool in the toolbox as I understand it, and all of the surrounding communities have this already, I pointed out earlier.
That is correct.
Okay. Alderman Boyette.
That pretty much covered what I was going to ask, because I know we had the issue prior to the one resident, and we got the decimal readers, and that seemed to slow those complaints down. And so I was just curious if the decimal readers and this were going to work together as a great tool for you all.
Again, like the mayor said, this is another tool in the toolbox
Yeah.
between the decimal ordinance, the Trans 305, and the state statute 347. So
Yeah.
again, our job is to maintain the peace. So
Well, and the simple fact that I can't wrap my head around it, but that's beside the point. The fact that this is a state statute, and for whatever reason, people before us didn't adopt it. So I don't know. I'm okay with it. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, there's a motion and a second to amend Chapter 16 of the City of Neenah ordinance by adding Wisconsin Administrative Code Chapter Trans 305. All in favor will vote aye. Any opposed, vote no on the roll call machine.
Tells me I voted. Can I borrow your gavel? I'll vote aye.
We'll work on that. Now it's locked, so. All right. All votes are in. That motion passes 9-0.
Committee recommends council approve the purchase of two 12-inch speed display signs 2 speed trailers with 15-inch displays, and 2 speed tracker data recorders from Traffic Logics in an amount not to exceed $25,000, to be funded by capital improvement account 011-2132-743-8183, and I would so move.
Second.
Can you repeat the? Oh,
011.
just kidding. But there's a motion and a second. Any comments on this, questions or comments? I will say this. As mayor, I've told you many times, every street in the city is the fastest street in the city. If you live on that street. These things will be very useful. People appreciate them when they're up there. You know, they slow traffic down. When they're gone, things change, habits change. But I just want to be sure that they don't work in a garage somewhere or back at the station. They got to be out. So the more often they're out, the better. And I think it helps. And it tells the citizens that we're trying. So. Anyone else? All in favor will vote aye. Any opposed, vote no. On the roll call machine, please.
Aye.
All members have voted. That motion passes 9-0.
Committee recommends council approve an amendment to the capital improvement budget to purchase 112 of the 95-gallon recycling carts and 112 of the 95 garbage carts from Rarig Pacific in the amount of $16,560 using capital equipment reserve funds, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Bates, seconded by Alderman Stevenson.
It works for seconds.
There you go.
Mayor, could I just, for the people watching on TV and for the people in the audience, I do want to at least make them aware of the fact that this is the first time we've used the system since COVID hit.
Yep.
So it's not like we're buddling around here because we don't know what we're doing. It's our first time back, so.
It's been a while.
Right.
Thank you for that, because it's been a while. It's been too long, so. Alderman Boyette, you have a comment?
I have a question. I have a question for Director Kaiser. So why the need for so many, like, is it been that long that they're falling apart and we need to replace them, or is this?
No,
we just need more?
we just need more of that size. We've had kind of a progression toward larger sizes from the folks that either made their original selection and over the last couple of years have decided they need something bigger. We have new home construction where we are, for the most part, all of those properties are selecting larger sizes. We are just getting into some minor damage on some, but that really hasn't affected the quantity that we have in stock. It's really the swaps and the new construction that are causing it.
And we didn't really plan for a lot of swaps, did we? I remember in the beginning, we had a big oops kind of error with getting more of the smaller ones than we had anticipated. But as far as the actual swaps go, I think because we let the residents pick their size, we didn't really anticipate a lot of change.
Well, we had strongly encouraged them to take a cold, hard look at what they generate and assume up from there. So we dealt with quite a bit of that. But honestly, we had expected that to taper off by now, but we still see a fair number. And like I said, the progression going toward 35s up to 65s or 65s up to 95s.
Thank you.
And Amazon has driven extra cars also.
Yes, we've also seen that with people purchasing an extra, primarily recycling cart, but we have seen some on the garbage side too.
Alderman Bates.
Thank you, Mayor. And I also think that people, when they started, they weren't sure what would fit in their garage. And then I think after they realized that their garbage wouldn't fit in what can they had, they realized they could find a new spot for their garbage can in their garage.
All right. seeing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion to make this purchase using of $16,560 using capital equipment reserve will vote aye. Any opposed, vote no.
I tried voting no, and it won't, so aye.
All members that voted, that motion passes 9-0.
And that concludes my final report.
Thank you very much. Would you like to give the finance? No?
No.
All right. Alderman Erickson, item number B.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Reporting out from the regular Finance and Personnel Committee meeting of March 28th, 2022. Number 1, the committee recommends council approve resolution 2022-07 for the 2022 Community Development Block Grant and authorization to enter into agreements for the activities subject to approval by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And I so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Erickson.
Wait, I got to do it. Yep. Right.
There we go.
There we go.
Alderman Erickson moves, seconded by Alderman Stearns. Comments or questions on this? Seeing or hearing no one, we will, all in favor, will vote aye. Any opposed, vote no on the roll call machine.
I vote aye. I tried abstaining, but
That motion passes 9-0.
Item number 2, the committee recommends council approve the tax incremental district number 7 development agreement between the city and Spring Creek Center 2 LLC for the redevelopment of the former Shopville property at 699 South Green Bay Road, and I so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Erickson. Is there a second?
second.
Seconded by Alderman Stevenson. Comments? Discussion? It's been a long time coming, and I've answered the question 6,000 times on what's going to happen to that property, and this is putting the wheels in motion to have some redevelopment on that property, and, you know, we don't quite know what we're going to get yet, but I think from a standpoint of tax base and utilization of that space, the gateway to our community, I'm excited. Alderman Stevenson.
Yeah, thank you. So my request to speak button does work. It's good. I do want to say that, TIF has been a tool that has been used rather successfully by a lot of municipalities, and specifically this one. While municipalities do have had, in times when economic development doesn't support the plan proposal, we've had, and the state government has had to take action to help TIFs that aren't performing well, and we have done that appropriately as well. But this community has done a very proud job of managing its TIF districts, and unlike other development agreements that have come up in the last number of years, this one seems to have drawn a lot of attention because I've gotten more questions and very cynical questions about this one, about, hey, I have I want to put up a grocery store. Can you give me $950,000? And I have to remind people, and I want to remind the community, that this isn't a gift, that this is a performance-based agreement that says if they increase tax base by I forget the number, is it 4 million, 5 million? Thank you. $5 million. In other words, our current base up additional $5 million. Only when they reach that $5 million of incremental value does the city's requirement to start participating and paying off that $950,000 kick in. So it's not like we're giving anyone anything. They're earning it by meeting their contractual obligation of reaching an incremental value of $5 million within 3 years.
Thank you very much for doing that, because I agree with your comments that this has generated some questions and that, so I think a great explanation. Alderman Bate.
Thank you, Mayor. I did call Chris Hayes today about, does this have to go in front of the TIF review board or anything like that? Because it does slow down the repayment of a TIF. But as Council President Stevenson said, we're not giving them more than they've already given us. So the tax increment, the payments that they will be making to us will be more than what we filter back to them.
Thank you. Anyone else? We don't have a lot of tools in our toolbox anymore. TIF is pretty much the only game in town, community, because we can't use levy dollars in that. It's very difficult to use levy dollars for redevelopment. We did put them in the budget this year, so I applaud the council for that. But as pointed out by Todd very nicely, these dollars are earned, and there is payback for the community. So that's how we're so successful here. One of the ways. There's a motion and a second. All in favor will vote aye. Any opposed vote no on the roll call machine.
I vote aye.
That motion passes 9-0.
Item number 3, the committee recommends council approve the 2021 operating budget carry forwards to 2022 as submitted, and I so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Erickson, seconded by Alderman Sturms. Any comments or questions on the carry forwards? Seeing none, all in favor will vote aye. Any opposed vote no on the roll call machine.
I vote aye.
That motion passes 9-0.
Item number 4, the committee recommends the city enter into an agreement with OnTech Systems, Inc. to perform a security assessment of the city's computing environment for a cost not to exceed $3,700 with funding that was approved in Information Systems 2022 capital budget, and I so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Erickson, seconded by Alderman Borchert. Questions or comments? Alderman Stevens.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to have included in the record that Director Wenninger has asked that as opportunities present themselves for improving our security, that that he have the opportunity to implement those immediately, and the committee agreed with that. So I think that should be known and in the minutes that this $3,700 is coming from a budgeted line item of $25,000 that Joe has been given. At least the recommendation from the committee has been to allow him to go up and spend as opportunities present themselves for increasing our security online. And I'm very supportive of that, just because of the environment we're in today, and the exposure that we have today. As the bad guys come up with ways of hurting us, we have to be able to react quickly to answer that, and we have to be able to do that quickly and not under the requirements of a structural government setting. So we need to be able to do that, do it quickly. I do want to also remind Joe that the council needs to be updated regularly on this, so because we're answerable to the constituents, and we need to be able to understand the efforts that we're going through and what our status is and what our situation is, and how we're incrementally, no pun intended, how we're incrementally getting better on our security and performing better.
Thank you, President Stevenson. Alderman Hillstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. This is $3,700, but it's well worth spent compared to what could happen to us. So, this really seems like a bargain with the environment we're living in at this time. I'll be supporting it.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Just tell people Joe has done a real good job of getting on top of this, and as pointed out by the two previous speakers, this has risen to be quite an issue. Got more notoriety with the Neenah Joint School District, what they kind of brought it home for us. The employee awareness and employee training is vitally important on this, and we have taken steps to improve that and to just make sure our employees know how important it is that they be cognizant of the things that they're opening here in the city government environment. So, and at home. I mean, it was not only help them here, but it help us, but also help at home. The alderman went through it, the mayor went through it, mandatory meetings. So this is money well spent. So, and Todd's point that we need to be able to react quickly is well taken. Anyone else? All right. All in favor of the motion, excuse me, will vote aye. Any opposed, vote no. In the roll call machine, please.
I vote aye.
That motion passes 9-0.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Item number C is the Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue Joint Finance and Personnel Committee meeting of March 22nd, 2022. Alderperson Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. As the mayor indicated, I'll be reporting out from the Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue Joint Finance and Personnel Committee meeting of March 22nd. The first item is that committee recommends that the city of Neenah and the City of Menasha Common Councils approve the agreement for urban search and rescue emergency response services from the dates of April 1st, 2022 through June 30th of 2024, and I will make that motion.
Second.
There's a motion by Alderman Stevenson, seconded by Alderman Boyette. Questions or comments? Alderman Skirms.
I'm sorry, I'm ignorant on this. What is this?
Let the chief answer that. I will answer that. There was a rather lengthy memo that the chief provided to the Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue Finance and Personnel Committee meeting regarding this. It's a little cumbersome, so I can understand that. Having a question.
Chief?
Thank you, Mayor. So what Wisconsin Task Force 1 is a urban search and rescue. It's put together and compiled by many career departments in the state of Wisconsin to make up this team. The team would train typically at Fort McCoy in Wisconsin, and what it does is when you see hurricanes and things in the south, other states deploy this urban search and rescue team. You've seen it in large disasters where this team would go through the devastated area, go through homes that you see all the markings on the house, which means certain things that they had gone through this house already, things like that. So they do extensive training. The state of Wisconsin has this set up through Wisconsin Emergency Management, so it's kind of managed through WEM. And a few years ago, this team was, I don't want to say it was disbanded, but the contract ran out. And the reason it did was because there was several issues that the state fire chiefs had brought forward that they would like to see fixed, and one of them was reimbursement. And the reimbursement was on two levels. One is that there was some lacking in reimbursement, like the team was sent to Florida a few years ago during one of the hurricanes, and so the cities helped fund this, sending their staff to respond, but the state doesn't receive reimbursement from the state of Florida until several months or at least a year after the disaster happens. And so the cities were like, hey, we need to have this reimbursement sooner than a year. And secondly was then that trickles down to staffing then too, to being able to reimburse staff. Lastly, one of the items was, what happens if one of the firefighters being deployed on this team to Florida or wherever they're going, what happens if they get hurt, injured, killed? Who's responsible and who's liable for, payment or whatever happens? So the state chiefs, WEM, the attorneys from the state chiefs got involved, and the state actually approved all of that they would be taken care of and the liability on the state. So now the team is back up and running through this contract. The firefighters haven't met and started doing the training yet, but and then typically this was operated through a grant through FEMA. So the state WEM would receive about $500,000 a year for this training to occur. So that was reestablished up to $1 million now. So it depends on, the amount of training. It's going to take a little while to get back up to speed, but the equipment and things that are sitting down at Fort McCoy for this group is unbelievable. And so there's some testing of equipment, and so it'll take a little bit for it to get going, but I think it's very beneficial because it doesn't just happen outside the state. It can happen. There was some flooding in the La Crosse area a few years ago, and then the Gideon Mill near Madison had an explosion about 3 years ago, and our Task Force 1 was sent there to help them mitigate that disaster. So that's this contract that we're trying to approve. And then Neenah Menasha Fire has approximately 6 members on Task Force 1. And the neat thing is that they get provided all this training, and then they can bring it back here to our community. And then we train our other staff into being able to understand and be able to do some of those training methods here.
Excellent, thank you.
You're welcome.
Alderman Lindrum?
Thank you, Mayor, but the chief answered my question.
Hey. Anyone else? If not, all in favor will vote aye. Any opposed, vote no. Clerk opens the roll.
I vote aye.
That motion passes 9-0.
Thank you, Mayor. The second item may require a little bit of background. The council hopefully remembers a while back, and Chief, if I explain this incorrectly, I'm sure you can correct me. If you remember recently, the Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue recommended and both councils approved the Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue hiring an additional sworn officer above and beyond the legal or the currently approved level because of anticipated FMLA requirements, that are long-term FMLA requirements. And so the department had gone ahead and hired that additional firefighter along with the other positions that were available. So there is one person that has hired under the guise of potentially in anticipation of a retirement happening within this next year, where that the last officer hired would step into a full-time position once we have our next retirement. During this training period, we hired a number of new officers, and unfortunately, one of the permanent hires has decided, along with his family, to move to Dubuque. So we have an opening in the department, and the person that was identified as being our temporary person for a year will move into this new full-time authorized position, and the department is requesting us to hire the additional person for a year to help offset FMLA costs and other overtime costs. Is that correct, Chief? Yeah, go ahead.
You did a fantastic job of explaining that. The one thing I'd like to add is it's going to be a little more difficult trying to find this next person. And the reason that is because the person that we had hired to fulfill this spot, he had already been through our recruit academy. And so it was very easy for him not to have to run through 5 weeks of recruit academy again. We were able to, get him going without having to do that. So that saves X amount of dollars in being able to send that person through. We don't have another person that we can fill the role in the same manner because we don't have anybody available that has gone through the recruit academy. The other issue is that the 4 firefighters that are on our list right now are not eligible to hire until they are graduated from Fox Valley Tech. So that won't be until May. And so we're in a little bit of a bind on being able to fill that spot. So we're hoping that whoever the 4 graduate from the tech, that we're able to find somebody that is available. So I think everybody's in the same spot about we've never had an issue with having our list full, ready to hire, and it's been no different than anyone else trying to find somebody. So, but I do appreciate the support and being able to look and to do that. The other issue is that this person would, if by chance our extended FMLA person came back early, we would have to put them on, I don't want to say layoff, but put them on leave until an opening is available. And so now looking ahead, that person may come back sooner, so I would hate to hire this next person and then put them on leave for 4 months until January. So we're trying to figure out what the best method is. So
based on that, the NMFL Finance and Personnel Committee recommends that both the City of Neenah and the City of Menasha Common Councils approve filling the vacant firefighter position, which was created when Mitch Berendez moved forward with hiring another firefighter to help offset the known overtime costs that will incur due to the current long-time FMLA, and I will make that motion.
Second.
There's a motion by Alderman Stevenson, seconded by Alderman Boyette. Any other comments or questions? I have some time after the 19th, Chief.
You'll never get up the ladder.
No.
For a short-term gig.
We couldn't find the right size turnout duty.
Oh. I opened myself up. Anyone else? If not, all in favor, vote aye. Any opposed, vote no. Clerk open.
I vote aye.
That motion passes 9-0.
That concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Excuse me. Item number 9 is special committees and liaisons and various special project committees. The regular plan commission meeting was canceled on March 22nd. The Board of Public Works meeting of March 29th, 2022. Vice Chairman Hillstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. The minutes from this meeting can be found on the city website. There's one informational item this evening and 2 council action items. The informational item is the board approved pay estimate number 6, contract 3-20 hot mix asphalt street construction to Summers Construction Company, Jyockton, in the amount of $11,452.37. If there's any questions on that? If not, first council action item is the board recommends council award contract 3-22 street construction on Apple Blossom Drive, Bird Avenue, Frederick Drive, Green Acres, Honeysuckle Lane, Meadow Lane, Primrose Lane, and Wild Rose Lane, and I would so move.
There's a motion by Alderman Hillstrom.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Bates. Contract 3-22. Director Kaiser.
That contract award is to Northeast Asphalt Incorporated out of Appleton.
Mr. Mayor.
Oh, yeah. Not listed on it. Northeast. Yes. Okay. That it, Jerry?
Yep, that's it.
Okay. Alderman Stevenson?
Just a question for Adam. Do we need to include the contract amount in this I've been around long enough where I remember we used to have to, when we approve a contract, we have to identify what that contract value is.
Yeah, I would call this a Scrivener's error that there's not an amount nor the contracted person. I think it was an oversight, not a.
Okay, so I don't have that before me, but Shire, if we could just include that in that motion, that would be appropriate.
You have that number, Jerry?
Yeah, the contract
Oh,
amount.
right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's on your screen.
$1,974,203.70. Thank you. Any other questions? If not, all those in favor will vote aye. Any opposed, vote no. Clerk opens the roll.
I will die.
That motion passes 9-0.
The second council action item this evening is the board recommends council award contract to Safe Slide Restoration, Farmington, Missouri, in the lump sum amount of $47,691 for the Neenah Pool water slide restoration and inspection, and I would so move.
Motion by Alderman
Second.
Hillstrom, seconded by Alderman Bates. Any questions on this expenditure? Discussed in committee. That will be done, Mike, at the end of the season, is that correct? That's, so no one's gonna miss out on the slide this year. Tell my grandson. So, thank you. Alderman Hillstrom, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I was wondering if Director Kading could come up and just explain a little bit about that we need to do this inspection every so many years.
All right, thank you.
10 years, the state requires us to have our slide inspected as well as gone through. We solicited bids to do the work. You have a summary of that in the memo that Jim Kluge provided. The work will include sanding it down, re-gel coating it, caulking the joints, and taking care of business to ensure that we have a safe, usable slide moving forward for the next 10 years.
What's the lifespan of the slide?
Well, I mean, again, that's why you take good care of it. It should last quite a long time. My experience is I've seen them go, we're on the 25th year. Last year I was at our 25th year. Keep wanting to have them inspected and taken care of. It should last, quite a long time. I don't have an exact number for you.
Alderman Bates, you have a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, at the meeting, we did ask whether or not, since they're pushing it off to the end of the summer, whether it was safe through the end of the
Correct.
summer, and Jim said yes.
Yes, that would be correct.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Thanks, Mike. All in favor will vote aye. Any opposed, vote no. Clerk, open the roll, please.
I will die.
That motion passes 9-0.
That concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item number C, the Landmarks Commission. Alderperson Lang.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a very brief report from Landmarks that met on March 30th. We discussed possible tour opportunities of landmark properties that could be held on September 11th in conjunction with the powwow or on Kids Day at the Farm Market on August 20th. There are a couple of options we're considering, and we'll be discussing it at the next meeting. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Item number D is the Sustainable Neenah Committee. Alderperson Borchert.
Sustainable Neenah will be rolling out its Please the Bees pollinator awareness campaign during the city's Arbor Day celebration. That'll take place on Friday, April 29th at 10 a.m. At a park to be determined by the new mayor.
Okay. The Neighborhood Groups, Business Improvement District Board, the Bid Board, Alderperson.
Thank you, Mayor. Just another brief report from the bid board. The annual meeting for the bid board was held on March 15th, and that was held at Future Neenah. Had a good attendance and was a very positive meeting, a very good year for the bid. That pretty much sums it up. That concludes my report.
And lastly, the Berkshire Mahler Museum, Alderperson Erickson.
Thank you, Mayor. The Berkshire Mahler Museum of Glass Board of Directors met by Zoom on Wednesday, March 30th. The first item I'd like to report is there is a Paperweight Collectors Association Member Artist Showcase that will be at the museum, or is currently at the museum, through May 21st, 2022. And there are Berkshire Mahler Museum of Glass paperweights at Paperweights in Bloom. And these are selections from the museum that are on exhibit at the Payne Art Center and Gardens in Oshkosh. There are more than 50 antique, vintage, and contemporary glass paperweights from the Berkshire Mahler Museum, which feature a floral motif at the Payne Art Center. So if you'd like to check out some paperweights, you can either go to the Payne or to the Berkshire Mahler Museum. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. As there are no petitions, any council directives, any unfinished business? Finished. Next item. A, for item number A, was the item that was added today. For my 2-hour thing, we received notice from Adam, and this is consideration of ordinance 2022-09, amending the salaries of the mayor and the common council based on the approval of such action that was in the 2022 budget. Alderman Stevens.
Thank you, Mayor. The mayor contacted me this afternoon and broached the idea of how to deal with this after conversations with the city attorney that he had. And I was in complete concurrence with him that this was an item that has been debated during the budget process, debated during the deliberations of the budget. I'm at the budget workshops, and also during the deliberation and passage of the 2022 operating budget. And I think it's appropriate to deal with it at this point, even though we didn't come direct from committee. So based on that, I'm going to make a motion to approve ordinance 2022-09.
There's a motion by Alderman Stevenson. Is there a second? Alderman Borchert seconds it. Any comments or questions on it? Alderman Stevenson.
Yeah, for the public that may be wondering what's going on, the state law does not allow elected officials to vote themselves a pay raise. So the salary adjustments that this council approved in the 2020 operating budgets have been approved financially, so we have levied for those, and they are in place, but we're required by law to make a passage prior to the new mayor and new council taking seats to follow state law.
Yeah, and if I can just add, the question came up, this was approved before the election had even happened, so there is no need for any alderperson who was elected or mayor to abstain from this. There's no requirement that you do that because, again, this had been approved in the budget before any of you knew who was going to be the alderperson or the new mayor. And just as an additional reminder, this only impacts alderpersons when they start their new 3-year term. So until you begin a new 3-year term, until you're elected in, the new pay will not apply to you.
Right, so the happiest people in the room are Kathy Boyette, Lee Hillstrom, and Dan Steiner. Well, maybe we can get Lee to stay 3 years. Oh, and I'm sorry. Oh, yes, Mayor-elect Lang as well.
Yes, thank you for the explanation. And all I'll add is this: legislative intent, very important in this. And it's clear, way back in November, when we did the budget, in my letter to the council, I talked about this raise in the council deliberations and workshops and at the budget session. This was approved. Money was put in the operating budget by the finance director, so no one can say that this is coming in after the fact. This was done during the budget. We are ratifying that previous legislative intent that happened during the budget process, okay? And by statute, we have to do it. That's why we took this route today. So thank you very much for your indulgence in that. Anyone else? Seeing no one, all in favor, signify will vote aye. Any opposed, vote no as the clerk calls, opens the vote.
I'll vote aye.
That motion passes 9-0. Thank you. See here. Under new business, I'm just gonna, someone did ask me, Tammy, and I think I'll have you explain it. There is a exhibition out in the hallway. You want to tell people what that's all about, so that might be able to stop by?
Yes, YouthGo contacted the Neenah Arts Council and expressed an interest in putting artwork of the students that attend YouthGo on display in the lobby. And we were pleased that they wanted to display their artwork here. In the past, they've just put a display at the Neenah Public Library, and we're very, very happy that we have an opportunity to view the beautiful artwork that they've done.
Thank you. Other announcements or anything? Alderman Stevenson.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to also congratulate all the newly elected candidates for office, not only here in Neenah, but all around the state. And along with that, I also want to acknowledge and thank those who put themselves out there to be included in the campaigns. And those that, which I mean those that got fewer votes than the person that won. I refuse to call those people losers. I also want to acknowledge not just the people that made it through to the final, but those who put themselves out there in the primary perspective. And any person that seeks public office and puts their entire life in the public realm, because it can be very rewarding and it can be sometimes chaotic. And so congratulations to everyone, and congratulations to the community to have people like this that are willing to put themselves out there like that. To the new council, I would ask, I have had conversations with Mayor-elect Lang, and if those who will be serving on the next council, they would be, start looking at your committee assignments, maybe areas that you may want to serve. Mayor-elect Lang and I will be contacting in discussions as soon as we can hear from you. And with that said, it's a bittersweet night because we have to say goodbye to two of our colleagues. The first one is Alderperson Bates, and when I heard when I first heard of Marge Bates, it was a long time ago. Sorry, Marge. But I remember that.
I was 12.
Yeah, I remember that happening when I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I meant to try to contact you to make sure my story is correct. But I first heard of Marge Bates back when the Park and Recreation Commission first started considering Southview Park as the pool location when we built the new pool. And there were a number of neighbors in that area who were not really agreeing with the position that the Park and Recreation Commission brought forward to the council. A matter of fact, one of them got elected, and I'm not going to mention names, but prior to Marge, and that was an interesting time. But then over some time passed, and Marge put her name out there to run for city council. And I thought, you know what, as all people do, Dan, I'm sorry, but as people put their names out there and run for council, my first thing is, who are they, what's their motivation, how smart are they, and how in tune are they, how dedicated are they? And given that I only knew of Marge through the pool, it's like, okay, here's another one of these one issue candidates that's really not going to get involved other than worrying about the swimming pool, right? Could not have been more wrong than with Marge Bates. Marge has stepped forward and has repeatedly stepped forward to take not only her committee assignments, but other ad hoc committee assignments that I can only try to share with you based on the plaque that I have here. So Marge, on behalf of a very grateful community and a very grateful council, we want to thank you for your time served here. So we, as the Common Council, the City of Neenah staff, and the citizens of Neenah, Wisconsin, we want to honor Marge Bates. She was an alderman from 2006 to 2022 and served as a council president in 2014 in Mayor Crawford's first year. She has served on the, and it's going to take some time. She served on the Public Services and Safety Committee from 2014 to 2022. She chaired that committee from 2016 to 2022 and was vice chairman in 2015. She served on the Finance and Personnel Committee from 2006 to 2014. She was vice chairman from 2011 to 2013. She has served on the Board of Public Works, the Business Improvement District Board, the Committee on Rules, the Community Development Authority, the Joint Review Board for Tax Incremental Districts, Landmarks Commission, Legislative Review Committee, Library Board, Liquor Licensing Review Subcommittee, the Loan Assistance Board, the Mayor's Rep to the Bergstrom-Mahler Museum Board, and the Neenah Menasha Fire Rescue Joint Finance and Personnel Committee. She served on the Plan Commission, Redistricting Committee, and the Sustainable Neenah Committee. Marge is not a one-issue person. Marge, on behalf of a very grateful community, we want to thank you for your service.
Marge, I know you said your goodbyes in that last meeting. Do you have anything you want to add tonight?
No, just thanks to everybody. The city has changed a lot in 16 years for the positive, and it's in good hands now, and I look forward to what changes come in the future. So thank you very much.
Marge, I was remiss in my comments. Not only do we thank Marge for your service, but we want to thank Marge's family and Forrest is here tonight. It's really, we get, whatever accolades, and the thank yous when we're in public, but the families are the ones that give up the time when we're here. So thank you to Forrest and your family as well.
And the interesting thing is, we had the opening on the Sewage Commission, and nobody wants to serve on the Sewage Commission. And then I dragged him in, and he's been serving on the board. And then after he got on, we found out that they actually get a $100 stipend. And I know Council President Stevens said, when did this come up? And it's like, I guess all those other commissioners got it, and they just never bothered to mention it. So it's a good commission to be on if you want a little bit of pocket money.
You like sewage.
And you like sewage, yes.
So the second person we're going to say goodbye to is a guy that I've known for a long time. We actually went to high school together. He's like 4 years older than me, but we were only 1 year apart in class because he took 3 years to get through sixth grade. No, really, he graduated in 1975, and I graduated in 1976, and we've known each other. We played a lot of softball together, and so we knew who each other was, but it wasn't until I decided to run for city council, and I was lucky enough to succeed Harry Miller in Old District 7, and I got to sit next to Dean right about there for 2 years. He was I think you were in the 8th district or something. And we had the opportunity to sit next to each other for 2 years. And then he decided to move up and ran for state assembly and was successful and served a long career there. But during that time, and based on the bond that we'd had as we worked together here on the city council, we stayed in close contact and really developed not only a good working situation, he wanting to know what was going on the local level, and me sometimes acting as a conduit for our leadership team to understand what the state was offering, and it's been a great ride. Then Dean made the decision to come back home and spend full time in Neenah, and I'm not going to try to hit all the highlights of what he's done, but Dean brought a renewed energy to the mayor's office. I think he took an expectation level to our department heads to a level that I think has has proved itself. He has just done just a lot of work. And he'll tell you, and I've heard it so many times I can say, he's the only mayor in the state that's given his personal cell phone number out to the public. And I've called him at times that I kind of wondered why he did that. I'm going to miss working with him. When I stepped down for a year, I was excited to come back to the council based on Dean's leadership, because I knew that it would be a different experience working with Dean in this office, and I'm going to miss him. I congratulate Alderperson Lang and Borchert for their interest in succeeding him, but that's going to be a tough job, but we're all here to help. So Dean, on behalf of, again, a very grateful community, not only for the 8 years, but for your entire time in public office, and to your family, Renee and the girls and the grandkids, we want to thank you. And we as the Common Council here, and the Neenah City staff, and the citizens of Neenah, we want to honor you, Dean R. Crawford, for the manner in which he has created and carried out his duties as mayor of the city of Neenah. During his term of office from 2014 to 2022, Dean has represented this city with integrity, honor, loyalty, and commitment, promoting the city as a great place to live, visit, and work. It's actually supposed to be visit, live, and work. That's the way it's read. Dean truly believed and exemplified that Neenah is as no place I'd rather be. In appreciation of 8 years of faithful public service, Dean, thank you to you and your family.
Thank you very much. Up till 2 years ago, I could make my own plaque. I have that, but
They're cheaper now.
Dan's doing a great job. So, guess we're to that point. We've only had one meeting that I've been here that's went past midnight, so I'll be sure to get us out before midnight. I don't want to have it then.
You know, any alderman can move to adjourn.
We have had a lot of fun, and you know, work is work, and play is play, and you got to sometimes do a little bit of both. But I'm going to do something totally off kind of the rails tonight, and that's, you know, I started a speech and I started writing things down, and I just kind of scanned it, you know. I just kind of went, you know what? There's just so many things that I could talk about, so many positive things I could discuss. So I'm just going to take, hopefully, you know, you guys have been, I don't know, Jane, you got, you know, this last newsletter was 6 pages or something, but I think people enjoy reading the newsletter as a whole. But I've enjoyed writing it, and people don't believe that I actually write it, especially Mrs. Grunwald, because she was my English teacher. You don't write that, so. But that, and you know, my letters to the council, my information to the community, transparency is pretty important to me, and clearly this community is really important. Family, my job, and doing this job for the past 8 years has really been exciting. So I'm just going to go a little bit off the cuff here. I think I practiced a couple times today, but I'm going to try and keep it under 15 minutes and talk about some things that are really I'm thankful for, and talk about some of the successes that we've had as a team, not Dean Crawford, but that we have had as a team. And after all these years, 34 years, I think I should be able to do off-the-cuff speaking pretty well. So it's been quite a while. And I do have some cake up there, so I'm not going to keep us real long because of that. But I've been really fortunate. I am probably the luckiest guy in this room because, I don't know, accomplished most of my goals that I set out to do. And at the end of my career, I had the wonderful, distinct pleasure and honor to lead the best community in the state. The place that I've called home, not where I was born. I was born in Menasha, across from the Fish Fry Tavern, Milwaukee Street. But even back then, at that age, I remember telling my parents I wanted to move to Neenah. I don't know what it was about this community, but it's a special place. And I've got to live that every day. And going to the grocery store, going to the bank, going to speak at Brian's classes and government classes, and day in, day out, I have interacted with so many wonderful people in this community who appreciate this community and love working here and living here and playing here. So I've had the distinct honor of being the leader here for 8 years. I've been surrounded with a terrific team these past 8 years, and I've been fortunate to work with some really great people. Todd mentions, I have this plaque on my desk that reads, "Neenah, no place I'd rather be," and that's really true. I've had a lot of department heads come and go. I've had staff come and go, but the citizens of this community should understand that it's the leadership, the common council, the people we elect, the way we act, the way we conduct our business, second to none. You watch some other communities, how politics, partisan politics, people's how they act towards each other, and we can really be proud of the way that we conduct our business. So I've had that wonderful life, and it's just been exciting, and I know, I was brought up right. My mother, 18 years old, had breast cancer. We lost her, so I had to grow up fast. And I had to understand hard work does pay off, and I've worked hard. I've worked hard in my business. I've worked hard here for the city of Neenah. I've had wonderful siblings, my brothers and sisters who've helped me, my extended family. I have a brother-in-law, Kip Kitzer, who served on this council for a while. And there were just a lot of people there to help me. And I learned very early, you surround yourself with good people, and you're going to be a success. Probably the biggest success, the biggest reason for my success is my wife, Renee, as you can imagine. Puts up with a lot in a lot of different ways. But being the wife, spouse of a elected official, not always that difficult. It is always difficult. And I governed through some of the most difficult times of the state. Act 10, death threats, police at my house at 2 o'clock in the morning while I'm in Madison, protests, my business, all those types of things. And Renee has been there by my side for this whole time. My daughters, they learned very early what a parade was. And so, you got to have daughters in a parade, and you got to have a dog. So those are really important. But in your pictures and that. But I wouldn't be here without Renee's help and their support, and so that I could, follow my dream of public service. It wasn't about government. It wasn't about partisan politics. It wasn't about politics at all. It was about government service, government's public service, and helping people. And I'm proud to say that we have helped a lot of people in this community, and that's what makes me proud. I've been a grocery store clerk, I've been a Dave's potato chip salesman, I've been a legislator, owned a trophy shop, I owned a bar. If you haven't owned a bar, you should try it. It's really a lot of fun at times. Being facetious. But I just want to be part of this community, and I'm never going to quit, so not going anywhere. But started out as an alderman, 1985. And, you know, wet my whistle a little bit there as an alderman, ran for the assembly, the legislature, knocked on every single door in this community numerous times. And Jane and Brian can probably attest to that. It's fun. It's fun. You meet people, you see them at their best, see them at their worst, you meet them at their doorstep, and you see the type of quality individuals that we have living in this community. So that's a lot of fun. My teacher in government class, George Shirk. What a weird situation that is. My mentor, my teacher that taught me about civics, taught me about government, and then later I was an alderman under, you know, with him as mayor, when he was mayor, and then, you know, had to run against him and win. So it was kind of surreal at times. So listening to people is still important, still the best way to represent people, and I know you all do a great job at that. And so I enjoyed my time in politics in Madison, but I wanted to come home. I wanted to come home to this community because I thought I could make a difference. Thought I could help work with this group of individuals here that we have as a common council that I have the highest respect for, and tell people all the time what a terrific job that you do and how important take your duty and responsibilities and be good stewards of the taxpayers. So I thank you for that. I've had so many good people to thank you, say thank you to. You know, John Bergstrom in this community has just been an unsung hero to me as a great person who I could always pick up the phone, call for advice, and he too has been there for this community. Anything that we've needed, John has helped us with, and I appreciate that. I surrounded myself, like I said, with great people. When I came here, you know, I didn't know what to expect from our city department heads, but I can tell you, people that work for us, the department heads, are some of the most caring individuals that, you know, their motives, unquestionably, what's best for the city. How can we work together as a team? And no one works in silos in this building. We meet as a team, discuss every department, knows what's going on in every department, other department, and everyone participates and helps make the decision-making process, and that makes it easier for me. So we've had some great things here. Quoted once to say we do things big here in Neenah. We really do. All you got to do is look around this community and see some of the wonderful things that have happened over the last decade, even prior to me coming. People, you know, I still think back, Marriage and Carpenter, who taught me as an alderman how to govern, and George Shirk, who helped further that later in life. But the things that we have done and accomplished as a group and as a council and as a community, you know, some of my biggest, you know, if I was going to say, you know, the press will always ask you what you're most proud of, what's the biggest thing, and I always tell them, people I work with, people that are here that, you know, garner a paycheck, that make sure the community that we're serving the citizen, that's really important. The tangible things, you know what, I will tell people, saving Theta Clark, keeping them right where they are, that was a huge challenge. They literally had 1 foot out the door. People like Chris Hayes, myself, we helped make it happen. And that in itself is probably one of the biggest things I remember. Now the fact that they're going to make a $100 million investment into this community is just something that I'll forever be proud of. Plexus, you know, the Plexus Design Center, Alta Resource, Financial Corp, Neenah Foundry, having all these global headquarters within our community. The fact that Plexus, you know, kicked out a great little bar kind of hurt at times, but it made such a difference in the community, and so that I'm proud of. The Loop the Lake, That was one of those partnerships I talk about all the time. Future Neenah raising the money, state of Wisconsin participating through the stewardship program, and the city of Neenah and the city of Menasha taxpayers stepping up to make it, a dream become a reality. And so that has been something that's been key. Saving some Kimberly-Clark jobs that weren't even really in the city of Neenah, because unfortunately we lost those jobs on Henry Street. But we were still able to work together. I was able to use my contacts to save 300 jobs, good paying jobs in this community. You know, we're the first city in the state to do a transportation fee that has really made a difference in people's lives. I've had so many people tell me that, you know, they had a child in college and their street just got done, and they couldn't imagine having to pay for the college that year and the street. So I want to tell you, that made a difference to a lot of people and help, you know, things out. But there's so many, I can go down the line and, you know, all the things that we talked about that we did together, not just the mayor. I was the quarterback, but it was so important to have that offense and defense behind you. And we did some really good things together. And at times we disagreed, we argued, but we did it respectfully, we did it with dignity and grace, and, you know, it was never personal with anybody. So, you know, for that part, I want to say thanks for helping make this community better. We did some really cool stuff, exhibition centers and champion centers, and we were part of, and we had some really good times doing it. So I just want to, I guess, say thank you to everyone for, you know, being part of my life. Well, people like Mike Ellis. You know, there's a guy who made a difference in the state of Wisconsin. And I still miss Mike to this day because he had a lot to do with my success. And so I put all of you in that group of really be important to me, Dean Crawford, and my success. So Todd Stevenson as council president, he was first day that way before this, when I said I was going to run for the state assembly, first person to call me was Todd and say, what can I do to help? And many of you have helped in that too. So I just want to say thank you. We've got some, you know, new faces here now. There's going to be more new faces because Skyline's going to change here too. But you're all going to do what you think is important to keep this city moving forward. I've talked many times about how important it is for growth. We have to keep growing this community, and we've done a really great job with that. So I've had the time of my life working with the staff, riding with the police, riding with the fire. All those things were fun. But at the end of the day, making a difference in people's life is what gives me so much satisfaction. And I've enjoyed every minute of it. You are going to do some more great things in the upcoming future. I know a lot of projects that are just kind of still hanging out there. We have the ARPA funds to make those decisions. On those funds, I will tell you this. The challenges that you're going to face in the next few years are going to be great. Combination of inflation, combination of pricing, jobs, labor, the cost of materials, cost of equipment, cost of some of the things that we need to operate, that, you know, the prices, fire trucks are almost doubling, sewer jetters are doubling, you know, all those types of things are going to add up. They're going to make your job a lot more difficult. But I know with the wonderful staff we have here in that, we're going to get through it just fine. I'm very, very confident that I'm leaving this position in good hands. very excited about the mayor. I think the community was very, very lucky to have two excellent candidates to choose from. Very, very thankful that we have a council that takes their job so seriously and is going to be moving the ball forward, continue to move the ball forward. So, so I enjoyed every minute of it. Can't thank you enough. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be close by. I'll help out or answer questions, or I'll be available if anyone has a question for an old lame duck mayor. But thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. And, you know, I don't know what the future holds. I know Crooked Lake's going to be up there. I know traveling's going to be there, grandkids. There's also other offers on the table already, but it's time to stop and smell the roses. And I don't know what, you know, if anything's going to happen down the road, but never say never. And it's had my life been part of it. Thank you all very, very much for spending the last 8 years with me, and I appreciate everything. Thank you. There is cake, so right in the day.
Arj, you want to make the motion?
Is there anyone else who has any announcements?
Move to adjourn.
Unanimous consent? I'll second. All in favor? Aye. Adjourn.
Broadcasts of the City of Neenah Common Council meetings are produced by University Studios of the University of Wisconsin-Fox Valley. Neenah residents can get information about City Council meetings, City Committee meetings, meeting agendas, and other documents via the City website, www.neenahgov.org. Neenah residents can express their opinions about city issues or about these broadcasts by contacting the mayor's office, contacting their city alderman, or by completing the electronic feedback form on the city website, www.neenahgov.org. All public portions of the meetings are recorded in entirety and are not edited for playback.